If we couldn't laugh, we would all go insane. Freedom lies in being bold. The best way out is always through. Happiness makes up in height for what it lacks in length. Home is the place where, when you have to go there, they have to take you in. Don't ever take a fence down until you know why it was put up. We love the things we love for what they are. Never be bullied into silence. Never allow yourself to be made a victim. Accept no one's definition of your life. Define yourself. A diplomat is a man who always remembers a woman's birthday, but never remembers her age. To be a poet is a condition, not a profession. There are two kinds of teachers. The kind that fill you with so much quail shot that you can't move, and the kind that gives you a little prod behind and you jump to the skies. Poetry is when an emotion has found its thought and the thought has found words. How many things have to happen to you before something occurs to you? We dance round in a ring and suppose, but the secret sits in the middle and knows. Something we were withholding made us weak until we found it was ourselves. A jury consists of 12 persons chosen to decide who has the better lawyer. The world is full of willing people, some willing to work, the rest willing to let them. Thinking is not to agree or disagree. That's voting. The brain is a wonderful organ. It starts working the moment you get up in the morning and does not stop until you get into the office. Unless you are educated in metaphor, you are not safe to be let loose in the world. By faithfully working 12 hours a day, you may eventually get to be boss and work 14 hours a day. Families break up when they get hints you don't intend and miss hints that you do. A liberal is a man too broad-minded to take his own side in a quarrel. You are always believing ahead of your evidence. The most creative thing in us is to believe in a thing. A person will sometimes devote all of his life to the development of one part of his body, the wishbone. A civilized society is one which tolerates eccentricity to the point of doubtful sanity. Anything more than the truth would be too much. Good fences make good neighbors. You've got to love what's lovable and hate what's hateable. It takes brains to see the difference. What we live by, we die by. Most of the change we think we see in life is due to truths being in and out of favor. The best things and best people rise out of their separateness. Education doesn't change life much. It just lifts trouble to a higher plane of regard. A poem begins as a lump in the throat, a sense of wrong, a homesickness, a lovesickness. Being the boss anywhere is lonely. Being a female boss in a world of mostly men is especially so. For dear me, why abandon a belief merely because it ceases to be true? What is done for the love of it, or not really done at all. The worst disease which can afflict executives in their work is not, as popularly supposed, alcoholism. It's egotism. Nobody has ever meant to remember or invent what he did with every cent. Our very life depends on everything, recurring till we answer from within. Life must be kept up at a great rate in order to absorb any considerable amount of learning. A poem begins in daylight and ends in wisdom. Don't tell anyone that you're lonely, because once again, you will convince yourself of this. No tears in the writer, no tears in the reader. No surprise in the writer, no surprise in the reader. Talking is a hydrant in the yard, and writing is a faucet upstairs in the house. Opening the first takes all the pressure off the second. Poetry is what gets lost in translation. A Avoid people who see your shortcomings and justify or even approve of them. Such people are either flatterers or cowards, or simply fools. Do not expect help from them in any trouble or misfortune. Like a piece of ice on a hot stove, the poem must ride on its own melting. Never marry a woman who has already had many men. It is likely that she will use her experience to harm you. To be social is to be forgiving. There never was any heart truly great and generous that was not also tender and compassionate.